Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
Welcome to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello, everybody. How is it going today? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. I guess it's now the start of a brand new week, which means it's a week full of more opportunities and positive things to come. I'm back here sharing more information with you on how to live your life to the fullest and happiest. And today I want to talk about finding beauty in everyday life. Like I say in every episode these days, there is so much going on in our world, negative and positive, and I want to focus on all of the positive things because that is what's going to give us the most fulfillment and joy in life, of course, and that's what we should focus on. We need to be focusing on the positive, beautiful things because sometimes life can seem very dark and scary, and there can be a lot going on that kind of shadows all of the beautiful things. And I think recently there has been a lot of dark shadows hovering over beautiful things that we need to take the time to recognize and appreciate. And you know, it's one thing saying, oh yeah, life is beautiful, I see the positive, I see flowers growing, the sun's out, you know, all those great things. I get to spend time with my family and, you know, all those things. That's really, really great. But I feel like we miss so many more beautiful things because we get so sucked into the media. First of all, you know, the negative headlines and you know, that the world is an ugly place, but the world isn't entirely an ugly place, but we are so conditioned to take more notice of the awful and negative things first. Like, negative imagery completely stands out. It's memorable. That is just a fact. And so that's why it's so easy to focus on negative things and negative imagery. And when we, you know, we open up social media for the day and we see a lot of negative things, or we see, you know, negative headlines and things just like around us, like surrounding us, that kind of form this negativity or dark cloud, and because there's a lot going on and there's a lot of chaos, and so it's all around us right now. But what's also around us is beautiful, positive things, and I feel like right now maybe a lot of beautiful, positive things are being overlooked because of all the chaos going on. So today I just thought it was kind of a cool idea to talk about finding beauty in everyday life, because there is beautiful things around us literally constantly every second of every day. There's more beautiful things than there is negative or ugly things around us. And we just often miss those beautiful things because we are too caught up in this other negative world or that dark cloud that's hovering over top of us or hovering over top of our life situation. And we got to be able to break through that dark cloud, and even when it's still there, even when that dark cloud is still apparent in our lives, we have to be able to look through it or look beyond it and find those beautiful things. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you today. It's just become so easy it is so easy to become distracted with life and its changes, and we forget to pause and just like take a moment for this. I wrote this blog a couple months back when the pandemic first started, and it was about, you know, taking a moment to find your space for grace. And that means really just letting yourself slow down for a second. And I know the pandemic has kind of forced us all to halt, to pause, at least at the beginning of it. All of a sudden our lives were completely shut down, it felt like, right? And it felt like we were forced to pause and to just not move. And that's really scary, to be told not to move anywhere, to be told that you can't go and live your life, that you can't go to your job, that you can't go hang out with your friends, that you can't go see your family members that live across town. You know, it's scary to be told no, and to be told that you have to stay still, because as humans, we naturally want to be growing and moving and learning constantly. And so when we were told to stop, of course that's going to hurt, and of course that's going to kind of take us off guard to, what do you mean I have to stop? I have to stop my life? Because, like, well, I don't get it. I can't live my life from the inside of my home walls, right? That's not natural for us to do that. We want to go out and explore and experience and connect with people. You know, that's normal to be, you know, adventuring in different environments and experiencing different things and learning and growing from all these different things. And it's one of the most beautiful things about life, is that we're able to wake up every single day and have a new opportunity to look at life in a positive, beautiful way. We wake up every single day with the chance to look at the beautiful things and the positives instead of the negatives. And it just can be really overlooked when we don't actually take this time to pause. And so when the pandemic happened, and it was a forced pause, it was something that really made everyone literally stop in their train tracks, literally stop and have to kind of reevaluate life and reevaluate the things that, you know, have really happened, and the things that you appreciate or you don't appreciate, and the things that you need or the things that you miss. And I wrote this blog about needing your space for grace. And that space for grace is that moment of pausing. It's that freezing time where you get to look around and you get to understand kind of your surroundings a little bit more, because you kind of have to. You're kind of forced to when you're told to freeze in one spot. You have no, you know, really other opportunity rather than to look around and start to pay attention to things. And throughout the pandemic, I know I personally have learned to recognize things and appreciate things that I never really once appreciated, or, you know, to the full extent. And I found out things that were more important to me than I ever thought that they were that important. You know, I found things that I love, and I also found things that in my life that no longer were serving me, and I thought that they were serving me. But this pause gave me the moment to take my space for grace to really pay attention to my life. And I talk a lot about self-reflection and taking that time to just think and to look around to look at your surroundings and appreciate life and appreciate yourself and try to understand yourself so that you can continue to learn and grow and create the life that you've always wanted to live, right? Because it's just so easy to forget about the beautiful things, to get up, you know, we get caught up in politics, or we get caught up in the negative news, and we get caught up in things, you know, that need improvement in our world, things that we look at as ugly when, you know, there's actually so much more beautiful things to look at. And you know, we need to admire the things that, you know, maybe don't need the improvement. You know, there are just so many beautiful things in our world that we take for granted. And so that pause, that especially at the beginning of the pandemic, for me personally, it let me appreciate those things. And so over the past couple months, I've really learned how to find beauty in everyday life. And my biggest thing that I want to say in this entire episode is literally just slowing down, because we are in a constant cycle of hurry, hurry, hurry. What's next in life? What's going to happen next? What am I doing next? What am I doing tomorrow? You know, what's tomorrow going to look like? And we look at busy as this positive thing. You know, I need to have this giant to-do list to be successful. I need to be busy all the time to be successful. And that's not realistic, because when we are that busy and we are constantly just looking for the next, we're not appreciating what's in front of us, and we're not appreciating those little too big moments that we should be appreciating. And then we're also not appreciating the very, very tiny things of our everyday life that are actually quite wonderful and beautiful, that we just take for granted because we don't take the time to slow down and think about it. Okay, so think about it this way. How many times have you woke up in the morning and brewed yourself a cup of coffee? Whether, you know, you use a French press or a Keurig or whatever type of coffee machine you like to use. You know, you probably have your coffee beans, and you grind them up and you boil your water or whatever you're doing. Or you just put your simple K-cup in the thing and you hit go. It doesn't matter. Either way, you wake up in the morning and you brew yourself a coffee. And that has just become a natural thing for most people, right? To wake up and need your coffee. So you just make your coffee and you carry on with your day. But how many times have you actually taken the time to appreciate that cup of coffee? To think about the cycle of that cup of coffee? the people, the places that maybe those beans have been, it's, are you running around the kitchen, like, getting stuff done? Or are you actually sitting down and enjoying your cup of coffee? I know it sounds silly, but, there are so many people or, factories and different things that those beans had to go through to process just for that cup of coffee to be sitting on your table in the morning and to drink it every single day. We take advantage of a simple cup of coffee because it's become so regular and a part of our life. It's a part of our everyday life. But that cup of coffee is actually quite beautiful, whether you're a huge coffee drinker or not. For me, I am a huge coffee drinker, and I really do appreciate my coffee. But some people just, it's part of their daily routine. And even though it's a part of my daily routine, I did kind of, I brushed it off. But now I'm trying to really think about, I actually just want to sit down for 5 minutes and enjoy my cup of coffee, because that's something I truly love in my everyday life, is my first cup of coffee in the morning. Like, that is just, that brings me happiness. And I always, have a cup of coffee as I'm reading, or I'm trying to do work, or I'm trying to get ready. And I never just take my 5 minutes to just drink my cup of coffee and not look at my phone and not try to look at emails or things, my to-do list. Like, I just need to sit there and enjoy the cup of coffee, because that's just part of my everyday life. And it's a beautiful thing, that cup of coffee. So today's episode is going to be all about finding beautiful things in your everyday life. How you can actually start to appreciate those things. How you can find beauty. How you can look through that dark cloud that's been hovering over you or hovering over certain aspects of your life. How you can break through that and still find beauty, even if that cloud is still there. Because it's not just going to disappear that easily. But we do have the capability to look through it and to break through that and find the beautiful things. So today's all about finding beauty in your everyday life. I have so much information to come for you, so stay tuned. We're going to take a little bit of a break, but when we get back, I'll jump right into it.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Let's talk about finding beauty in everyday life. So how many times have you woken up, poured yourself a cup of coffee without thinking about what's going into it? There's so much that goes into it. We don't recognize what goes into that cup of coffee. The people that it takes to ship and package everything that happens before it reaches your coffee mug in the morning. And it's all for you, that cup of coffee that you get to enjoy in the morning. And I mentioned before the break how I'm really trying to give myself even that 5 minutes to actually enjoy my cup of coffee without doing a million other things at once. And that has already made a huge difference in my life. As simple as that sounds, enjoying my cup of coffee is actually one of, my favorite things in my, schedule of my day, my everyday routine. Like, coffee is literally one of my favorite things about it. And I have no problem with admitting that. And so I wish I would have paid more attention to that coffee before, because it actually is those 5 minutes. It gives me so much joy, even if it is only 5 minutes. Sometimes, I get more, but sometimes I can't. But even that 5 minutes really makes me realize what a beautiful thing and how much I appreciate my simple cup of coffee. Now, during the pandemic as well, I started to explore the the pathways and the outdoors that are around my house. I recently moved to a new city, and I've been so busy that before the pandemic, I never took the time to explore these pathways around my home. And mostly because, I always said, I'll do that later, or I'll do that another time. I'm just so busy. I was just not taking the time to appreciate the forestry around me, and it's actually just incredible. So when the pandemic happened, I took my time to explore these pathways. And I don't think I ever would have, in my entire time living at this home, actually taken the time to fully explore these pathways around my house. And as much as I love the outdoors, I love running outside, I love hiking, I love forestry, I truly love the outdoors, but I was pushing that to the side because I was having this idea I'm too busy to enjoy even a 30-minute walk to these pathways. And that's what, was happening in my head. And I was too busy. But at the end of the day, I was also probably taking 30 minutes to play on my phone in retrospect, right? So why couldn't I have taken that 30 minutes to actually enjoy something even way better than my cell phone, which is just the beautiful outdoors that is literally 2 steps away from my home? And I really learned that even my drive, to the grocery store and to my house, I really started to pay attention to what was around me, because I didn't have to think about, so many things going on in my to-do list. I didn't have that to-do list in the back of my head. I was actually just taking the time to enjoy something that I already knew I loved. And I think finding the beauty in your everyday life is actually genuinely taking the time to appreciate things that you already love. For me, it's that cup of coffee. I knew I loved my coffee, but I didn't realize how much I actually find that cup of coffee so beautiful until I took the time to slow down and think about it. Now, I didn't take the time to explore these pathways around my house until the pandemic forced me to pause, and I created my moment for grace, and I decided to explore. And I'm so glad I did, because even now I walk those pathways, run those pathways almost on a day-to-day basis, and it changes my mood every single time. Sometimes I have to force myself to get out there, but even a 10-minute walk or a 10-minute run or whatever it is changes my entire day. And, in the back of my head, I think I always knew that would happen, but I just thought my to-do list was more important than enjoying the beautiful nature around my house, which of course my to-do list is important as well. Being busy, I have things going on. Of course, that's natural. You probably have so many things going on as well. But how many times do you actually take the time and the effort to slow down and appreciate something that you already know you love? So if I can give you my first tip of, other than just slowing down, besides slowing down to find beauty in your everyday life, is really pinpointing the things that you do on an everyday basis that you genuinely love. For me, waking up and having coffee. I do usually exercise, but I never took the time to exercise around these pathways around my house. And so I found something that I already loved, and I turned it into something that I truly appreciate. Maybe you love sitting in your backyard. Maybe that's somewhere where you like to do your work or you like to read. Okay, now that you know you already love sitting in your backyard and you do that, now take the next time that you're sitting in your backyard to appreciate every single thing about it. Maybe the little flowers that come up by the fence, even the weeds that come up behind the shed that you pretend that you don't see. Or, maybe it's your dog running around in your backyard and you actually see how much your dog appreciates the backyard. Simple things like that. So find something that you already love in your everyday basis and take it even slower. And take the time to actually appreciate that even more than you think you already do. Even if you're like, well, I already sit in my backyard and I appreciate and love it. Yeah, but have you really appreciated every single part of it? Like that your dog playing around in it and the little flowers that are growing and just simple little things, the birds chirping in the morning, how it sounds, or the way that, the rain, I don't know, just so many simple things that we already love that we can love even more and we can appreciate even more. So take the time to just slow down, find something that you already love, and find another way to appreciate it, or a new way to appreciate it. So maybe you already love sitting in your backyard because you love that your dog appreciated it. You already knew how much your dog, the backyard made your dog happy, and that made you happy. So now try to find something new that you love about that thing. What do you love so much about your dog loving it? What do you love so much about sitting there? Write this down, reflect on it. Take the time to appreciate something you already feel like you have gratitude for. because you'll just understand how much that thing truly means to you, or how grateful you are to have that thing in your life. When, there's a big difference between negative images happening around us and the beautiful ones happening around us. And negative and ugly imagery gets in your face, and it really forces you to pay attention to them. So sometimes maybe when you're sitting in your backyard and the weather's not very nice, and now you're just focusing on how it's raining and you're getting wet and your hair is all messed up. Of course, because that is literally in your face. Your hair is frizzing up in front of you. You feel wet and you're soaking. It's more obvious than anything. But maybe what you're missing that day is, if it's been raining so much, maybe there is a new flower patch, or maybe your dog's loving playing in the mud, and you miss that whole beautiful concept of your dog rolling around in the mud, or those new flowers that blossomed because of all the rain, because you're too focused on the negative of getting wet and your hair frizzing up. Simple things like that. So it's because those negative things are just in our face, and we don't actually take the time to look past them. So when you do take the time to search for beautiful things, you'll actually find more beauty than ever. And it sounds silly, but go sit in your backyard with the idea in your head that you're looking for something beautiful. Go for a walk that you're looking for something beautiful. Go to your job with the thought in your head that you're going to find something beautiful there. The beautiful things in life require you to seek them out. The negative things are the ones that are just in your face. You won't always find beauty just because you're looking around your backyard. But you will find beauty if you focus on finding the beauty. So it's just one way to, bring a little bit more brightness into a world that can be so gray, is by actually just seeking beauty. It's as simple as that. I know it kind of sounds silly, but we often forget to actually think about finding beauty. We always just think about, oh, well, yeah, this pathway's really nice. Oh, my backyard is really nice. Ugh, but it rained. Oh, my dog got mud everywhere in the house. Whatever the case is, we forget to actually search for beautiful things because we're so focused on what's thrown in our face, which is natural. Which is why slowing down and understanding and taking the time to seek those beautiful things out is going to make such a huge difference in your everyday life, in your gratitude, in your appreciation for the life that you're living right now. So I hope that made sense. So try to, first of all, find things that you already love and find a new way to appreciate them, or a new reason to love them. Or go outside with the idea in your head that you're going to find something beautiful. Walk some unbeaten paths around your house with the idea in your head that you're going to find beautiful things. Because when you put that in your head and you put that out to the universe, you will find beautiful things. I say constantly, if you put out positive energy, you're going to receive energy. So if you put out the positive thought of finding beautiful things in your life, you're going to find beautiful things in your life, and beautiful things will also come to you. They might not be thrown in your face, or they might not be frizzing your hair up, that negative thing, but they will be there. Sometimes you just have to look a little bit harder to find them and appreciate them. It's time for a little bit of a break. But when we get back, I'm going to jump into talking about building a stronger connection with a loved one, or with people that are in your life, that are constantly in your life. So say, the person that you live with, whether it's your significant other or a family member, your kids, your dog, someone that you already, maybe see on a day-to-day basis, or you see quite often. And how can we find more beautiful things within those relationships in our everyday life? I'm also going to give you some more tips on just finding beauty in other aspects of your life as well, including food. We all love food, our bodies, things like that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. I have so much more information for you.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. All right, so we are back, and let's still talking all about finding beauty in your everyday life. So it's so easy to get clouded by the negativity because obviously those things are right in our face. Like I said, we can't really get away from them sometimes, and sometimes we have to search a little bit harder for beautiful things, which doesn't make them, any less beautiful. It makes them more beautiful. It's actually, I think finding beauty in little things that you never would have thought of is like such a cool feeling. And I think it's such a good thing to pay attention to because there will always be cloudy days, but there's always going to be positive things within those cloudy days or that's in front of you that you maybe don't realize. And focusing on the beauty in everyday life and focusing on those beautiful things, even if you might have to seek them out, can completely change your day. It can change your mindset, and it can completely change your life if you let it properly do that, right? And I think just genuinely we become happier and more fulfilled, better people when we learn to find beauty in everyday life. And so, like I said, my cup of coffee, that's something that was part of my everyday routine that I actually really have now learned to appreciate and enjoy. The pathways around my house, I really learned to appreciate and enjoy. And now, this is my next tip for you, is to fall in love with food. I know a lot of people are like, well, I already love food so much. And like, whether you're kind of a foodie or you're not a foodie. For me personally, I'm not a foodie. I like food, don't get me wrong. Food is super good, but I don't appreciate it to the way that a lot of people appreciate it because maybe that's just not who I am. I also just don't really enjoy cooking and things like that, right? And I find people that do really thoroughly enjoy cooking and kind of making things from scratch really do fully fall in love with food and find the beautiful things within it. But for someone like me I'm a pretty plain eater. I'm a really picky eater. Basically give me chicken strips and fries and I'm a happy camper 98% of the time. But, as I've grown up or starting to grow up, I do find more love for different foods that I never would have thought of before. So if you're like me who has grown up with a very picky eating lifestyle, like I'm literally talking chicken fingers and fries, I still to this day go to the restaurant and that's probably what I'm going to order at most restaurants because I know that I like it and I love it. And I do find beautiful things. I think chicken fingers and fries is so wonderful. And I truly appreciate that. But now I'm starting to appreciate different flavors and different cultures and like that kind of food. Like foods from different cultures. And I never once felt like that. I never once appreciated, Mexican food or Italian food or things like that. I was just like, oh, it's pasta, whatever. I'm having tacos, whatever. It didn't really matter to me. But as I learned more about different cultures and I'm still learning more about, where that food actually comes from or how it all kind of got started, I learned to appreciate it more. For an example, with my family, we are Polish and I grew up always eating pierogies. And pierogies are so good. It was like, it's still one of my favorite foods to this day because it's plain, it's simple, it's carb loaded, they're delicious. But do you realize how much work goes into making a pierogi? Literally, the people that make pierogies are standing in the kitchen for so long. And it wasn't until my family, they explained to me a few years back, but who actually explained to me how long that takes and that it's literally somebody's day who rolls out the dough and pinches it and puts it all together, and it is so time consuming and they take so long to make these pierogies, and I devour my plate of pierogies within like 2 minutes because they taste so good, and you forget to even appreciate the hard work that goes into your food or that's from a different culture. And so fall in love with food, but not just for the taste, but for other reasons, for where it came from, for the culture. Try to learn something about your culture. For me, it was as simple as finding more about pierogies that made me appreciate pierogies more because that's has always been a part of my life. And now I understand really how much work it goes into it. And I find that when I do actually get to eat my pierogies, I appreciate them more because it's like, wow, this took a lot of time for someone to make these. And it's the culture and it's the effort that I understand behind it, not just the taste of the food, because the taste of my pierogies have never changed, and I hope they never do. But I learned to appreciate food for different reasons. Like, I'm not someone who appreciates cooking and the flavors and all that, but now I'm learning to find the beauty in the culture and the person that made it, instead of just finding beauty within the taste. Now, I did mention how I want to talk about building a stronger connection with a loved one. It's people that we see on a day-to-day basis, or family members that we're close to, even if we see them only, on occasion or whatever it is, we kind of take for granted that person because we know that they're always going to be in our life. For majority, right? We kind of, my mom's always going to be here, my dad's going to be here, I can, talk to them, not talk to them, and all, whatever, right? We kind of have this in our head that they love us and we love them and they're going to be in our lives. But when was the last time you actually sat down and had a conversation like with your grandma or your grandpa who you haven't maybe spoken to in a while? And even if you know them well, things can really surprise you when you actually just take the time to let's sit down and have a conversation. No phones, no food even, just nothing. Just sit down and talk. And the beauty of just even being able to sit down and enjoy a conversation with a loved one is a beautiful thing in our everyday lives, a conversation by the fireplace or just sitting on your couch or at your kitchen table, whatever it is. That's just so beautiful that we have the ability to be surrounded by our loved ones and that we have the ability to sit down and even though we feel like we know them so well already, we can still get to know them more. We can still learn about them. And I love that about people in our lives and our families. I learn about new things about my family all the time, just from talking to them and taking the time to have a conversation and see how they're feeling in their day. And it's so cool, especially with living away from home right now. I take more time to have a conversation with my loved ones, with my mom and my dad and my siblings and aunts and uncles and all of those things. You actually take the time to talk to them because I don't see them on a day-to-day basis, but now I take the time to appreciate the beautiful thing that I get to pick up a phone call and find out how my dad's day is going. I love that, and that's a beautiful thing in my everyday life that I get to appreciate now. All of our relationships are based on the dynamic that exists between two people. It's basically a result of all the biases and the baggage and assumptions, and we lock ourselves into patterns of behavior and relating, and that can kind of limit the way that we engage with somebody, because when we feel like we know somebody or we love someone so much that we sometimes don't take, the time to really pay attention and to engage in a different way, because we just assume, their day's going pretty good. They work their 9-to-5 job and yeah, it's usually how their day goes, or they didn't, they've been working that job for 20 years. What are they going to tell me about it? Who knows? But maybe that day that you ask how work was, maybe something exciting happened. Maybe they learned something new about their day. And we forget to engage in a deeper way when we are talking to loved ones or people that we know very well. So next time you talk to your loved one, take the time to ask questions about day-to-day things that, maybe you only, that you just kind of assume, that they had a good day, or you assume work was the same, or whatever the case is. Take the time to ask different questions, more questions, the same questions, but take the time to really pay attention and listen and find the beauty in their answers and the way that they're talking and explaining themselves, and just even about how their day was going. And then when they're explaining how their day is going, find the beauty, within their day for you too, right? It goes both ways. You just may be so surprised about kind of what unfolds. Another really cool thing that we can fall in love with and we can find beauty in is within ourselves, within our bodies and our bodies' capabilities. We are able to get up and to adventure every day. I'm so grateful for my body to carry me around, that I get to go for my runs and my things outside, and I get to, hug my family, and I get to see friends and move my body and live life and go adventures and do all those different things, right? And so find the beauty within your own body. It's just, our body is our instrument, and I've mentioned this so many times, but we forget to appreciate our instrument, our feet. We forget to appreciate that our feet literally hold us up all day long. How beautiful and wonderful is that we are capable to stand all day long and see beautiful things. And it's all because we get to stand on our 2 feet and admire the beautiful world. So pay attention to your body, pay attention to your mind, things about yourself, the way that you're growing or the way that you're changing. Take before and after pictures of, I'm not just saying of your body or your weight or anything like that, but take pictures. Take pictures of your backyard and yourself and your home and the people around you, and find, and really examine those things and find beautiful things within the things that you see daily. Find new things to describe as beautiful. I hope that makes sense, but take things that you already love and love them more, and find new ways to appreciate them, and just slow down and fall in love with food for different reasons. Start a stronger connection with a loved one just because you want to sit down and have a conversation and appreciate that conversation. We have to find beauty in the little things. The fact that we can come together and we can all push for change in a chaotic world right now. That is so cool. Even in a pandemic, the amount of kindness and positive movement that has been demonstrated is absolutely amazing. In the world of so much cloud, of darkness and uncertainty, I've seen more kindness than ever. And it's so cool to see because I see people finding beauty in everyday life, even though there is this generalized dark cloud over our world right now of so much going on. But there's still so much beauty to find, and so sometimes we just have to search for it. It's not going to be right in our face. Negative things are right in our face. They're so apparent. It's hard you can't miss them because they literally get shoved in our faces. Whereas beautiful things, we have to search a little bit harder for. So take your time to search for beautiful things in your everyday life. I promise you will not regret it. Well, that is all of the information I have for you today. I hope this inspired you to pay more attention to your everyday life routine, to slow down and appreciate things that you already love or new things that you can learn to love or learn to find the beauty in. Just take the time to seek out beauty and you will see how amazing it is and how much beauty is around you in your everyday life. All right. Thank you so much for listening to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I so appreciate you being here. It means the world to me. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button so you will always be notified when there is a new episode. Like and follow us on social media. I am constantly updating those for you guys, so go hit that follow and like us on social media, as well as leave a 5-star review. I love reading the reviews and it helps out a ton, so I really appreciate it. So till next time, stay positive, stay happy and healthy, and remember to seek beauty in your everyday life. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.